All right, hey everybody, and welcome back to Weather for Weather Geeks. I'm in-house this evening. It's going to be a late evening in the Weather Center tonight with the timing of our thunderstorms coming in after midnight. You may see me doing some Facebook Lives in the wee hours of Wednesday morning. We'll get to the details on the threat for severe weather tonight in this video. We're going to take a long look at the situation, which will unfold tonight. But first, a quick look back at today. It turned out to be a pretty nice late afternoon and early evening after some morning showers. It's been mild all day. Temperatures this morning started in the lower 40s, then peaked in the mid 60s later on this afternoon. Rainfall totals pretty modest this morning, but we did have some shower activity around morning and midday. Picked up a couple of tenths of an inch in some parts of our area, especially from about I-80 on south. We have not added anything over the last few hours, though. It has been quiet here late this afternoon and early this evening. Those showers that we had early this afternoon have faded away, and I'm actually expecting it to stay pretty quiet here for at least another few hours. The first of what should be several severe thunderstorm watches has been issued as of 7:13 this evening. Severe thunderstorm watches out for Milwaukee, Chicago, heading over towards Grand Rapids. I'm expecting Detroit, Toledo, probably South Bend, Fort Wayne, and eventually probably Mansfield and Cleveland at least, to be put into severe thunderstorm watches before the evening is through. I'm not going to be surprised if our region gets put under a watch at some point as well. Again, it's quiet now. We've got what we call a capping inversion overhead. In meteorology speak, that's basically talking about a warm layer, relatively speaking, aloft that kind of suppresses air parcels from rising too much and kind of puts a lid on the potential for thunderstorm activity. But that lid is going to break as we go through the overnight, and this line that's taking shape right now as of 7:14 in parts of Wisconsin, Illinois, and Michigan, this line is going to come to the south and east, and it's going to bring with it a pretty elevated severe weather risk. So the SPC, Storm Prediction Center, outlook starting at midday today did include parts of northern Ohio in the enhanced risk. You'll notice that's like a 3 on a 1 to 5 scale. We are put in an enhanced risk a handful of times a year, but it's certainly less common than being in the 1 or the 2 category, so definitely gets our attention. Now, you know, when I show these risk maps, I try not usually to zoom in too close because some people like to split hairs a little bit with these, and they're really not designed to say Newton Falls is in the enhanced risk, but Warren is in the slight risk. These are more very general geographical risks and really shouldn't be parsed all that carefully, parts of counties being at a higher risk of other parts of counties based on these maps. Now, when we are put under a severe thunderstorm warning, a tornado warning, a flood warning, products like that, then we differentiate between parts of counties and different communities, but not with these kind of general severe weather risks. All right, so let's go into the timing for tonight. Again, we're quiet for the next few hours. Now, our high-res model here, which updates once an hour and kind of ingests the very latest data, including the radar data, it has been honing in on kind of the 12 and 1 o'clock hours for us to see the nastiest weather overnight tonight. So we've stopped the clock here just before 1 a.m. And so from northwest to southeast, from about midnight till probably 2 a.m. is when we're going to be under the gun to see storms that really will mean some business. They could be pretty loud, they could pack a punch with wind, and they could produce some hail, and there's even a low-end tornado risk as well. So yeah, 11 p.m. midnight at the earliest, and then more likely later in the 12 o'clock hour into the 1 o'clock hour for the possibility of wind damage, hail, and even though the tornado risk is pretty low here locally, it is not zero, but by far and away the wind and the hail are the bigger threats. Flooding is not a real big concern because these will be moving along pretty quickly. They're not going to sit over one place for very long. The risk of a tornado tonight within 25 miles of any location, it's about 2%. For a lot of northern Ohio, eastern Ohio as well, it definitely goes down the farther north and west you are. So the tornado risk is probably lower in a place like Grove City than it is in a place like Hanoverton, for example. It is highest overall, I think, in southern lower Michigan, parts of northeast Indiana, and northwest Ohio. 5%, 2%, these are pretty small numbers, right? But still, these are pretty elevated risks of a tornado-producing storm overnight tonight. So when we look at some model data here, that it kind of jives with what I just showed you. This is model data showing at about 10 o'clock this evening a pretty elevated risk of something trying to spin out of that line in places like, maybe Ann Arbor, and heading through maybe Jackson, Michigan, and down towards the Toledo area. And so that's the zone, parts of lower Michigan, northwest Ohio, that may have the highest risk of a tornado. When that squall line moves through here, again, you see maybe a little bit of an elevated risk, especially south and west of Youngstown, but the risk is probably not quite as high here locally as it is for our friends in northwest Ohio and lower Michigan. The hail risk elevated as well as this line moves through, and then it will diminish quickly overnight tonight as the storms pass off to our south and east. Now we're looking for big time improvement as we go into the day tomorrow. We're going to start with clouds, but I think the sun's going to break out pretty quickly in the afternoon. And boy, one last really nice day before things take a turn for the March-like later this week. Showers Wednesday night, and then showers will pop up at times on Thursday. This is going to be a raw, blustery, chilly day Thursday. Temperatures no higher than mid-40s. Wind chills, we'll be talking wind chills. Probably no higher than the mid-30s. I'm not going to be surprised if some ice pellets, maybe a little bit of grapple tries to mix in with the rain showers. Thursday afternoon, a little taste of, take your pick, late October, early November, or March, rather than mid-April. And yes, I do think some places are going to see snowflakes Friday morning. It's not going to stick, but there'll be some snow flurries around, and this is going to be a blustery, cold day. I mean, we'll struggle to get above 40 on Friday, and those wind chills probably no better than freezing Friday afternoon. I mentioned this on Twitter earlier, the fast start to spring, we're going to pay the price a little bit here. Those chickens are coming home to roost a bit over the next 10 days or so. We talked about a few weeks ago, back in March, how April may end up being a chillier month compared to average than the last several months. And then the models sort of flipped and showed all this warmth in the first week of April, and that came to fruition. Well, this pattern, which was seen by some of the models a few weeks ago, it's just delayed, not denied. Instead of starting out with this pattern at the beginning of the month, it's just waiting until the middle of the month, but we're still going to see this pretty cool pattern for probably a couple of weeks. Now, can we salvage the end of April? I think that's on the table, certainly, but right through the middle of the month, don't expect a lot of highs in the 60s like we've seen lately and like we'll see again tomorrow. I'm not going to be surprised if we have a few opportunities to see snowflakes. I doubt we'll have anything that accumulates at this point, but in this kind of a pattern, wet snowflakes trying to occur, something that happens around here sometimes in mid-April, and this year looks to be like that as well. So fast start to spring, but the progress of spring will be slowed greatly, it looks like, as we go through mid-April. All right, a lot to keep track of tonight. I'll have you covered on social media, the Storm Tracker 21 app, and if we do get a lot of warnings and some pretty hefty weather late this evening into the overnight, if you're going to be up following the weather, I will probably be on Facebook doing some live coverage on YouTube and Twitter as well. So look for that if things get pretty hairy later on tonight. Charge up your devices. Make sure you have multiple ways of getting warnings tonight, because this is occurring in the middle of the night when a lot of us are sleeping. You want to make sure that you'll be woken up and alerted if there's threatening weather in your area. All right, have a great rest of your Wednesday night. I'll see you, or Tuesday night, I should say. I'll see you Wednesday night for a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks.